We want them.
So first goal is to win a class, and by doing that you kind of open up the avenue, and that's what these kids have done, and it's not an easy task no matter where you're going, where you're at. So if you guys could give all these kids a big round of applause for making it to this stage. And you know, ultimately class winners lead to division champions, and that's about what we're to name here. And I, you know, you step back and you study them, and they don't all look the same, and you get it. You know, as a judge, you kind of break priorities down and go to personal preferences, and sometimes they don't look the same. But I thought quality in terms of what was offered in this belted division was definitely far exceeding my expectations as we started the day. You know, I keep coming back to one, and I made the comment earlier is I'm a big look guy, especially from the side, and maybe that's the wrong priority to some, but once I get that look and that vision, then I start to really evaluate them in terms of, you know, what do they offer in terms of skeletal spread, in terms of bone work, in terms of muscle pattern, dimension, and they got to move in terms of an athletic manner. I think there's one that meets that match in terms of what I'm looking for. You know, I'll just come out and say it. There's not a perfect one. I'd love to see him that much smoother as he ties in right there, his ham loin hook up. But man, you talk about one that's sharp looking from the side, comes at you wide, dense at the ground, so fresh and dimensional down the center part of her back. And that young lady gets that barrel's head tipped up, and he's mesmerizing. I like the FFA barrel here to win. He tapers in, he comes out. So where do you put your... forward, not only in terms of the added chef that he offers, but I love to see him that much taller at the top side of his blade. You know, ultimately too, you get in behind him, maybe doesn't really know what to do with his rear too, kind of wants to push outside his body line. Love to see him meet the surface that much squarer and more genuine in terms of what he does, but that's a power hog nonetheless. There's another one that keeps captivating my eye too, and that's the young man's big gilt there. That's more my speed, just in terms of look from the side. She has that advantage in terms of height of blade. You get in behind her, definitely does not disappoint you in terms of what she offers on a muscularity component. You know, she's the reverse of what I just talked about. You dig in behind that one, and she almost wants to converge all the way to the ground in terms of what she's doing with the distance from her hock and how her rear feet set onto the surface floor. I think it's close. They're obviously different in terms of their type and kind. You know, ultimately, I just kind of go back to what I like from the side and the profile. I think there's more presence, there's more posture. Young man's big gilt, that'll be reserved.
Now, if you could just place them down, and as you pull them, pull in whatever one is up.
Your overall grand champion, and Sophia Zentner. We have light cross, class 1. Fritz Grable, Sarah Epperson, Brandon DeRosa, Ella Williard, Addison Jolly, Dawson Hunter, Zachary Teal, and Connor Aherns. Light cross, class 1. Light cross, class 2, to the holding pins.
That one does the best job to a very high level. And you look that past, and that one coming at you, that is an absolute truck, just in terms of what he offers on a spread component from his sternum into his elbow pocket, and just stays so square and genuine all the way to the ground. Off to the side, very big and bold right there in the center part of his cage. Very proportional in terms of the parts and pieces coming together. You know, you gotta get critical on everything, right? There's not a perfect one made. Would love to see him that much more athletic off his rear too, and just crisping him up in terms of his muscle shape and dimension as you study him right there down the crease of his back. But I thought non-negotiable, quality class winner. Let's give him a big round of applause. A young lady's guilt that comes in second, you know, by far, she's got more dimensional components as you study her up high. It's just the simple fact there's not simply enough on a skeletal component, not only spread, but density and volume of bone. Got to see that one softer and bolder right there in the center part of her skeleton. Love to see her that much looser and leveler down of her spine. But you simply put meat animal characteristics, so I thought she was second best. Give her a nice big round of applause. Young man's blue belted gilt, comes out next. One that you love, the height of her shoulder. I thought there was a separating factor as we get into 3, 4, 5, and 6. And just simply put, which one had the most, right? Not only on a muscularity component, but thought that gilt has an advantage as we sort through the remainders, just in terms of stoutness and power of bone work. But ultimately, got to see that one softer in her body. Got to see that one more in terms of width and a muscularity component. But a nice gilt nonetheless to go third. A young lady comes out next, another individual light cross that's got some good things working for her in terms of the dimensional component. We just got to see more volume of overall muscle. Got to see more boldness to her body. Got to see more punch in terms of what she offers on a bone work and lower skeletal component. But a nice gilt nonetheless. Big soft middle barrow comes out next. You know, just didn't think he had enough stuff on a muscle and mass aspect. Comes at you, wants to get a little bit funky, what he does with his knee relative to where his foot places the ground. Got to see that one fresher in terms of his muscle pattern. But a big-bodied, soft-centered one, give him a nice big round of applause. A young lady comes out with a blue-eyed, blue-hipped gilt. Again, another one that you like in terms of the height of her blade. We just got to amplify that one in terms of bone, bulk of muscle, and body shape. But ultimately, there's some good pieces in terms of front-end look and extension. Round out the class, we'll bring the remainders. I thought they were very similar in terms of what they offer. They're loose enough about their structure. They're tall enough about the top side of their blade. We just got to man them up or mass them up, if you will, just in terms of muscle, in terms of bone, and the skeletal component, up high, down low. Got to bring more stuff and pride. Same thing holds true to the gilt that rounds out the class. Just got to see more stuff on a muscle, skeletal component, and body shape aspect. But a quality class to start the lights. Give all those kids a huge round of applause.
Coming back from class 1, Zachary Teal. Entering the ring now, we have light cross class 2. Wesley
yeah, so when like the class winners come out for the lights, just bring me the pig that won the class. Does that make sense?
Candace Ider, Kaylee Ider, Marty Babb, and Ella Hathaway. First call, class 3. Class 3 to the holding pins. So attention to our showmen, you need to be wearing your market number. Your market number is the one you need to be wearing.
We'll re-rack you, my man. We'll put him back.
Also, as he's working through this class here, just a quick announcement. If you have a livestock trailer,
we'll pin your pig.
You need to move it. They need those trailers parked along Kathleen. And the field that runs along Kathleen is where we're putting the livestock trailers. So if you're parked directly behind the Jacket building, sometime today you need to get that trailer moved.
quality and not to be generic in terms of what we're talking. Honestly, probably the deepest class that we've seen to this stage of the game. You know, there's one that when he poked his hole through that fence or the gate and comes out, man, that thing is just so busted open, so unique in terms of the square and genuine value he offers all the way to the ground. And I'm referencing the young man's barrow. He's going to win this particular class. That initial view I got, man, just definitely locked in and kind of got my mind rolling of, man, I need to hang my hat on this one. I think as you study the remaining top 4 or 5, I think he does some unique pieces. Just presence and posture and poise, and just so good in terms of the smoothness that he offers from the tip of his nose all the way to the back side of his hip. You know, ultimately, I would love to see him that much looser off his rear too, and absolutely would love to see him that much stouter all the way to the ground. But hey, there's not a perfect one made, and I thought that chest view, the body shape, the proportional pieces, and the simple fact that as you study him exit his hip, man, he plants a big old stout tail root out the top side of the hip in a very level fashion. Like that barrow, great deal. Give that young man a big round of applause. Hey, there's more bark and there's more stuff in terms of bone work on the young lady that comes in too. You know, from the side, didn't fall in love with him as much as I did the young man's class-winning barrow, but I think absolutely he's got an advantage in terms of foot size and in terms of bone density. Just didn't see all the parts and pieces matched together. He's a nickel looser of what he does off his rear too, but uniquely enough, he's also a shorter hip, steeper hip barrow. Just got to make him bill in that much smoother like we found in our class winner, but an awesome barrow to go too. I apologize to the young lady in 3, kind of missed that one right off the bat, but this is another high quality barrow just in terms of what he offers on a density and skull component. That one coming around at you so wide and rugged right there at his jawline. And you get off to the side, and that's where, again, kind of falls apart for me. Maybe a nickel too long in terms of the length of his body relative to the height of his blade. We shorten his back and make him that much smoother. I think he ultimately pushes maybe into that second hole. But that's another loose-strided, stout-featured one. Just got to bring more show ring presence, in my opinion, for today to get him up any higher. But an awesome barrow to find himself in the 3rd hole. Give her a nice big round of applause. A young man comes out with a highly presented, fresh-looking barrow that's got so much substance and volume to the center part of his skeleton. You know, unfortunately today, maybe pushing the limits in terms of fat deposition relative to the amount of muscle that he truly does offer. We make that one more dimensional and trim his lower lineup. I think he has an ability to move up a spot or two because there's quality fundamental market hog pieces in that one. Give that young man a nice big round of applause. Young man, sharp-looking gills. I pinned that one right off the bat. You don't really know what's coming from class to class. Very striking and highly pinged from the side. You know, you just sit down and you start to study her on a power component. That's where she gets beat. She needs to be wider at the lower part of her skeleton. We got to see more spread up high in terms of what she offers in a blade. We got to see more width in a hook and pin set, and then just soften her up in the center part of her body cavity and make her more rugged all the way to the surface. But a highly presented, neat looking from the side. Our young lady's blue neck barrow comes out next. This is a conventional barrow, and don't say that in a negative manner. I think there's parts and pieces of this one that definitely meet some industry standards. He's got enough muscle, just got to make him that much sharper in terms of what he offers on a dimensional component. Love to see him that much stout to the ground, but a good quality, good middle one nonetheless. Our young lady's blue hip, blue-eyed gilt comes out. Probably has a nickel more shape as you study her up high. Just ultimately, it's coming and going on a skeletal component. Got to see her wider, got to see her more powerfully made at the lower base of her skeleton. But that's a good practical market hog nonetheless. Round out the class, we'll bring the 2 remaining ones out. I thought practical, good bodied barrow, or gilt, comes out next. Just got to see more spread, got to see more dimensional components on a muscularity platform. Round out the class with the blue neck barrow. Another one that's got thump in terms of expression of muscle. We just got to amplify that width and that volume. But awesome class, probably the deepest class we've seen up to this point. Give all those kids a nice big round of applause.
Coming back from light cross class 2.
When it gets down to the last few, just don't let them out. Okay.
That way they don't feel bad. Yeah. And I'll just kind
Well,
of...
I was trying to be courteous, but I was...
No, you're good. Yeah.
Clark Williams, Jaron Knopp, Kendall Darty, Easton Darty, Sophia Vickery, Riley Hathaway, Baker Hathaway, Taylor Wilcox, and Kaden Beard. This is our final light cross class. We'll have light cross finals at the conclusion of this class,
It probably has more stuff, and not to be generic, but just in terms of outward turn to his body. You get in behind him. Red hen is wider from stifle to stifle, and he's a little bit plainer and coarser in terms of his muscle pattern, but that's not why he goes second. It's that view that he pictures you off to the side. Just got to see him that much neater from his blade forward. Got to elevate him to the top side of his blade. But there's quality, practical market hog pieces in that one. Let's congratulate that young man as he exits out. This one's interesting, the young man's barrel that comes out in third, because there's things that I love about him, and there's just some things that I can't live with today. We'll talk the positives first. That thing is wide, coming directly at you. The lower base of his chest floor from his elbow to knee to the ground stays square and genuine up. He's big, bold right there and round in terms of his body cavity. And then you dig in behind that guy, and that's where he gets himself in trouble. Wants to push out of his body lines as you study him working his rear too. Nickel Bowie into elastic, if you will, at his hock joint. Got to square his front feet and trim him up to the lower part of his line. I'm not getting too critical on him because, again, he's got some good pieces in terms of lower skeletal width and body roundness and boldness. Just got to clean him up and make him more secure off his rear too. Young man's barrow comes out next, very conventional, and then say that in a positive component. There's just practical, commercial-driven components to this one in terms of the softness of body. He's got enough spread in terms of skeleton, just got to amplify him on a muscle dimension and pattern avenue. That's a quality one in terms of body shape nonetheless. Young man's all-white barrow comes out next. Just one that I read to be too straight on both ends of his skeleton. Study that one from the side. He's too restricted in terms of his mobility pattern. Got to relax him down the top side of his skeleton. Young man's gilt comes out next. Another one that you appreciate from the side in terms of the depth of her lower line. Ultimately, though, coming directly at you, we got to offer more spread, more pry, and more power at the base of her skeleton. Same thing holds true with the blue gilt, the blue-eyed gilt that comes out next. She's tall at the top side of her blade, and she's got that thing working for her. We just got to get more presence of width and power down low, and the same thing holds true as you study here. Round out the class with two quality market hogs in terms of body shape. Just simply put, got to give them more power in terms of bone, in terms of bulk and volume of muscle. Awesome class. Make some noise for those kids as they roll out. You're good. You did great. Good job today.
Coming back from Class 3, Taylor Wilcox. Also in that Class 3, we had our average daily gain reserve with Easton Darty and our average daily gain champion with Clark Williams. Congratulations to those two. Up next, we'll have our light cross finals. Light cross finalists should be in the holding pens. And coming back in our finals, we'll see Zachary Deal, Cruz Knopp, Kaylee Eider, and Taylor Wilcox. Those are your finalists.
Well, again, let's congratulate these three individuals for winning their class and trotting out here for the champion drive in the light cross division. I think you sit back and you study them as a whole, and I made the comment on the mic. I would love to see a couple of them just hinge that much freer, that much looser, but ultimately there's one out here just in terms of his parts and pieces, so smooth and so good in terms of how everything blends and matches together. We talked to him in class. Love to see him that much stouter in terms of his foot and his ankle. Love to see him that much looser. But a good look and highly presented, awesomely shown individual. Young man directly here, you'll win the light. Sparrow, and that was a challenging class and very competitive class, and you study him in terms of what he offers. Definitely has more shape and dimension up high relative to what we talked to the eventual light cross. I just didn't think he balanced and proportioned as well to what his class winning status could have been, but he's wide-chested, he's shapely, he's dimensional, he's big and bold about his body. You know, I think he's in the mix. The young man that won that first class, another very proportionally made barrow that you like those parts and pieces about him. Maybe not the most attractive from his blade forward in terms of how his jawline ties into his cheek and then down into his chest floor. I think it's between those two, but ultimately there's just more dimension, there's more power, there's more substance. The young lady that was second in that class should be a reserve light.
Champion light cross, Cruise Up. Dark cross class 1, what's coming in the ring? We have Blair Sitton, Bristol Burnside, Layla Deeds, Kalana Vopat, Hunter Avery, Jude Zender, Mercedes Hunter, and Hattie Brown. First call, Dark Cross Class 2.
We'll have you go over your act. Go put your barrel in pin number 2, or not number. Yeah. She's gonna open it up for you.
Noticing all the awards given, I'd like to give a special thanks to Sean Burke and B&B Show Pigs for donating the Swine Division banners. B&B Show Pigs is based in North Idaho, is well known for producing competitive high-quality show pigs, providing Sean's passion for meat development and the show ring is reflected in his generous support. Thank you.
Let's have you go in that pin there.
Banners.
We'll have you spin around and go in that next, they'll open up the gate for you, okay? We'll have you run your gilt buddy in that next pin. We'll have you go to pin the letter Y right there. We'll have you walk your pig over, they'll open up the gate for you. You're doing an awesome job today. So she'll go and then we'll bring the other two out. Keep showing, buddy. You know, why does he get beat today? It is that view. I just talked about the class winner. You know, you lay your eyes up high and evaluate him from his blade back. Just got to see more of an aggressive turn and that much more volume of muscle laid down to the top part of his skeleton. But again, another one that's got some parts and pieces that we appreciate in a show ring setting. A young lady that comes out third, there's some things that I like about that one, specifically as you elevate yourself and study him off to the side. He's a tall-shouldered one that offers a neat enough look from his shoulder forward. You know, a little bit coarser and plainer in terms of his muscle pattern. I think problematically, when you dig in behind him, got some swelling and some issues going on with his hock joints, really just hinders his overall movement. But a quality barrow nonetheless in terms of look and in terms of posture off to the side. A young lady that comes out in 4 with the chrome nut barrow, another one that we like in terms of his size and his scale. You know, just got to get him to catch another gear, to roll with more athleticism and more authority. But with that being said, I like the fundamental components he offers on the meat animal component. A young lady's belted gilt comes out next. Another one that's got some shape in terms of muscularity. Just got to see that one become more true. As you dig in behind that one and you study it from hock to ground, wants to converge yourself too drastically and too sharp of an angle, but a quality one in terms of muscle dimension. Big scaled, long-bodied one comes out next that's loose enough in terms of his mobility pattern as the young man drives this gilt. You know, it's the off to the side. Got to be a nickel too coarse in terms of how she ties into her ham loin hookup. Black freckled up a gilt comes out next. Another one that we love some things about just in terms of practicality. There's muscle and there's meat there. Got to make that one boulder body. Round out the class with the red belted barrow. Another one that's very practical and soft in terms of his center body skeleton. Got to rework his rear legs and make him that much more genuine from hock to ground. Awesome, awesome class. Give all those kids a nice big round of applause.
Dark Cross Class 1, Commander Wolfpack. Entering the ring now, Dark Cross Class 2. Cashton Haynes, Camden Bradshaw, Tommy Yoakum, Cole Berger, Caleb Stoll, Bryson Hunter, Desmond Collins, and Ruby Stevens. First call, Class 3 to the holding pens.
her blade. I love to see her that much bolder and rounder in terms of the upper turn and spread she has right there in the center part of her body cavity. And if we could just transition and smooth her out that much neater at our ham loin hookup. But that's a quality gilt to win this class. Give him a nice big round of applause. Young man with the red long sleeve shirt's going to end up second. I thought from the side she most resembled what we just talked in our class winner. Height of blade, look up front, coming directly at you, wants to close up from knee to ground. Got to see that one with more power. And then you sort your eyes up high and you study her directly at her blade. We'd love to see her push more of an aggressive muscle and dimensional component relative to what we found in our class winner. And then just got to make her that much more looser and athletic as you study her off to the side in terms of what she does on a mobility pattern. But a quality gilt nonetheless. A young lady that rounds out third, just practicality is kind of the word that comes to mind in terms of body softness and roundness of rib. Get up high, maybe not the most enamoring in terms of what she offers on a dimensional component, but all the parts and pieces are there for just a very conventional, practical market hog. I like that red belted gilt. Let's give her a nice big round of applause. There's things I appreciate about the red belted barrel that comes out in 4. He's very dense about his mug and his skull work. Just doesn't balance and doesn't come together. What we talked about in those top 3, you get in behind him. He's got some swelling to his right rear hog, a little too short and steep in terms of his hip, but a quality one in terms of softness and stoutness of feature. Young man's gilt comes out next. Again, another one, and not to be a broken record, but just genuine, just practical, just good kind of stock in terms of her body softness and what she offers in terms of turn right there in the center part of her cage. Coming directly at you and going away is where she gets a little bit hung up. Got to make that one more powerful in terms of spread that she offers, not only in the lower part of her skeleton, but the same thing holds true up high. Young man's cool marked gilt comes out next. Very similar to what we just talked about. Love her body shape. Just got to power that one up in terms of muscularity. Round out the class with 2 barrels. They got some good parts and pieces in terms of what they'll do the next stage of their purpose up on the rail, just in terms of dimensional muscle pattern shape. Got to make those ones looser off their rear legs, more sure and more secure about how they step. Awesome, awesome class. Make some noise for those kids.
Coming back, your class winner, Camden Bradshaw. Entering the ring now, we have Dark Cross Class 3, Ariana Daniels, Emma Cook, Riley Meckel, Lincoln Pabb, Whaley Collins, Raymond Brown, Ellie Demers, and Colby Boise. First class, first call, Class 4 to the holding pens.
on that barrel. You know, is he the most unique in terms of what he offers on a look and cleanliness perspective? The answer is probably not, but just in terms of athleticism, and you study him in terms of the angles to his skeleton and the looseness to his rear joints, that's ultimately why he gets the nod. Plus the fact, highly presented, neat about his look. I love the fact that he's soft and bold right there in the center part of his body cavity. Square and genuine, driving directly at you. Nice place to start. Let's give her a big, big round of applause. Young man that comes out second, I apologize for missing this one and maybe made him drive a nickel longer, but this gilt's got some unique pieces. I love the look that she propels herself off to the side. She is dense and rugged about a bone where it probably has that advantage relative to what we found in our class winner. Just didn't see the athleticism as what I found in our eventual class winning barrow, but another gilt too. I'd love to see her that much bolder immediately on the top side of her spine, just in terms of what she offers to the shape to her cage. She's square, just got to give her more body and make her that much looser in terms of her mobility pattern to knock heads with the barrow that wins. A young man that comes out in third, there's definitely some good parts and pieces of this one. He's wide and bold coming directly at you. You know, you study him up high, a little bit plainer, nondescript in terms of what he offers on a muscularity component. I think he gets himself in trouble for me, just on a body to bone ratio. Love to see him that much bigger through the foot and up into his ankle, and got to make him that much looser off his hip and hind leg. All black gilt comes out next, just practically driven in terms of body shape, in terms of what she does in that specific venue. Got to make that one stouter all the way to the ground. Got to make her wider coming directly at you, and then amplify the dimensional component we're looking for in a show ring setting on a muscularity pattern. Blue-headed, blue-hip barrow comes out next. Another one that we like some pieces about him. I love the fact that he's square in terms of what he offers from his blade back. Just got to see more turn, got to see more roll to his loin edge. Got to make that one that much freer off his hip and hind leg. Shorter, steeper in terms of the construction to his rear skeleton. Well, we'll jump to a holding pin over here, bring out, I believe it was a red belted barrel that comes out next. Another individual that we appreciate some things about, just ultimately not secure enough in terms of his foot and his stride. Young man's chromed up barrel, another one that's highly presented. Big scale, long body, just got to see more bone, more stoutness of feature, and then round out the class with a belted gilt, or excuse me, a belted barrel. Just got to make that one more athletic and more comfortable in terms of how he utilizes his skeletal assembly, and then ultimately you study him up high, too plain, too round on a muscle standpoint. Awesome class. Let's give those kids a big, big round of applause.
Coming back from Dark Cross Class 3, Ellie DeMille. Entering the ring now, Dark Cross Class 4. We have Blake Williams.
Yeah. Do you want me to get rid of that one for you?
Oh, sure. Thank you.
Katie Mike, Andy Epperson, Matthew Green, Bobby Hunter, Hannah Stowe, and Anna Maria Marshall. That's Class 4. First call, Dark Cross.
Re-rack her in that first pin, buddy.
Ongoing support line will bring added excitement to our
We have you pin yours, buddy, in pin 2.
And honoring our senior showman for our walls.
Yeah, go to pin 2.
Also want to point out our entry gate sponsors. That's C&L Landworks. C&L Landworks sponsored our entry gate. Here is talking about an excavation community project. C&L Landworks do it all. They're helping us keep our producing lives one year at a time. Thanks to C&L Landworks for helping us out.
I think there's one and wins pretty quick, in my opinion. That's the young man's chromed up Gill. Just think she does so many good things in terms of her proportionality and her parts and her pieces matching so good. And with that being said, she's stout about her skull. She's dense all the way to the ground. You want to get critical of that one. It is at the ground. I'd love to see her plant that much square and genuine off all four of her feet as she meets the shavings floor. But man, that's a good looking one that's got body, that's got spread up high, and that advantage in terms of lower skeletal width propels herself to win this particular class. Highly presented to boot. Congratulations to that young man. I think a little bit closer between 2 and 3. You've got different types and kinds, and ultimately kind of just powered them up, to be quite honest and genuine with you guys. The all-black barrel is going to find himself in that second hole, and what do I love about him is that initial view you get coming directly at you from his sternum into his elbow pocket, so wide and then so genuine all the way to the ground, and quite honestly has that advantage over the individual that wins this particular class. He is the barrel that is the most secure of that top two in terms of where he plants and pushes his feet off the shavings floor. Ultimately just my kind. Thought it was a little bit too chuffy from what he offers from his jaw down into his chest floor. His lower line getting a little bit wasty for my liking, and then up high. Just got to relax him in terms of how that spine comes together. But that's the one that definitely has a lot of stuff in terms of boldness and in terms of power. Another highly presented barrel. Let's give that young man a nice big round of applause. Young lady's gilt that comes in third. That is my kind off to the side. Height the shoulder, look from her blade forward. Ultimately, you study her come directly at you, and then you circulate in behind her. Just got to see more spread and more width as you study her all the way to the surface, and then ultimately pivot your eyes up high. Does not come as with much punch as what we found in our top two on a muscularity standpoint, but a sharp-looking one nonetheless. Young lady does a tremendous job. I like the barrel in 4, just in terms of his conventional and his practical pieces. He's bold right there about his center body cavity. He's stout in terms of his skull work. Ultimately runs out of steam and gas as you study him all the way to the surface. Got to amplify that one in terms of his foot, his ankle, and his arm. But I love the picture he possesses from the side, and then just freshen him up on a muscularity aspect as you study him on the upper part of his skeleton. That's a quality barrow to find himself in the 4th hole. All black, white socked one comes out next. So ultimately, just doesn't have enough relative to what we talked in 1, 2, 3, and 4. Got to make that one crisper in terms of his loin edge. Got to make that wider, both coming and going away from you. That's a quality barrow in terms of look and presence from the profile. A young man's chromed up barrow comes out next. Another one just very practical in terms of his body shape. Easy feeding kind of hog. We just got to make that one more show ring driven in terms of muscle shape, dimension, square them up from hog to hog. When we bring the remainders out, there's some issues in terms of skeletal assembly and looseness of stride. But I thought ultimately all these deserve the blue ribbon. They're good body, they got enough muscle, they got enough width. Just got to free them up on a skeletal component. Awesome class. Give them all a big, big round of applause. Class, and my option today is the young man's belted barrow coming directly at me, and that is the view that allows him to elevate himself to class winning status. That one just has so much more spread from chest floor to knee, and you get into his knee, and maybe that's where you want to tweak him just a nickel. I would love to make him that much more genuine in terms of how his knee rocks and follows all the way to the ground. But there's so much stuff in terms of spread, in terms of volume of muscle, and in terms of center body dimension. He's stout, he's rugged, he's burly. We'd love to see him for my kind, just that much neater from his jawline down into his chest floor. But throw those two negative components out, I think he wins, and he wins pretty quick. Congratulations to him. I like the look and the presence that the old jungle cat brings forth. That one's wild marked and definitely captivates my eye in terms of his color pattern. They don't ultimately coming directly at you, wants to close up too much relative to what we just used in our class winner. Got to see that one more flexible and loose off both ends of his skeleton. We'll love to see him that much bolder in terms of his body, but he's neat looking. He's got a hard back worked into him. Congratulations, that young lady, on getting that a second place barrel driven very, very well. A young lady that comes out next, I've used this word a lot today, just practicality. Man, that one from the side is definitely eye-appealing to me, just in terms of how everything blends itself together. She's got a lot of bone and feature all the way to the ground. Uniquely enough, so stout about the base of her tail. But ultimately, you dig in behind that one, we just got to see more muscle, more volume of power as you study that one, not only on a muscularity aspect, but all the way to the surface in terms of her lower skeletal spread. But a quality gilt to go third nonetheless. Young man drives an all-black gilt next. Probably has more shape in terms of what we just referenced in the gilt that goes third, but ultimately just didn't see the balance and didn't see the ruggedness of feature that I found in our third place gilt. We amplify our bone work. We make her that much smoother at her ham-loin hookup, blow her out in terms of her center body cavity. She probably works herself up another spot. Belted barrow comes out next. He's got some issues as you study his lower line, working into his rear flank. I'd love to clean him up, and nothing to the young ladies. We've had those barrows and gilts at the house, blow some glands, but ultimately we just got to make him looser and freer off both ends of his skeletons. Round out the class with two high-quality blue ribbon type of market hogs. They got some body. We just got to bring forth more skeletal correctness in terms of how everything's aligned and offer more fresh and dimensional muscle pattern up high. Hey, that's a great, great class. Let's give those kids a nice big round of applause.
Coming back from class 5, Avery Deans and Addison Yoakum. Coming in the ring now, we have class 6, McKinley Thornton.
class in my mind, and I don't mean to be negative when I say this, but maybe one that just didn't jump out and say, hey man, I got all the parts and pieces I need to win pretty quick, because I think both of these top two offer some quality and maybe in some different venues in different regards. You know, ultimately, I'm a big look guy from the side, and there's one that does that much smoother in terms of his proportionality and his pieces just blending together. That's the young lady in the all black shirt. She's going to win this particular class. He is very striking from the side, and that first view I get of him coming directly out of the holding pen, that one's got a lot of width from sternum to elbow and then all the way to the ground. Love the look that he presents on the profile. Where he gets himself in trouble is when you get him behind that one. From stifle into his lower ham, just simply runs out of gas and steam. And then obviously, as we evaluate him on the move, got to make him that much quicker stepping in terms of what we want on an athletic venue. But with that being said, I think he's got some good pieces. Big about his back, bold about his body. Love the look from the side. Congratulations to her. There's a lot of practicality in the barrel that goes too. And yes, absolutely, he's freer and looser off his rear leg, and he's got more dimension from stifle into his lower ham. I see that and I get it. I think ultimately when I get my eyes up high and really evaluate him from his shoulder back down the crease of him, we just got to see more roll. We got to see more turn in terms of muscle dimension. Love to see him that much more rugged in terms of his bone work all the way to the ground. But a neat looking one that's got a lot of functional, practical pieces to him. Congratulations to her. Young lady that comes third is tremendous on the stick in terms of what she does, getting the most out of that barrel. And I don't know if she was taught or she's just doing it. But that I talked to her, got to see that one that much leveler in terms of his spine work. And she's pushing on him with the brush, and I appreciate that. Trying to make him mellow, trying to make him look that much smoother as you study his upper line. But ultimately just comes out of balance for me. He's got more dimension in terms of what we just talked in our second place animal. Got to see him more rugged and burly all the way to the ground. But a nice quality barrel nonetheless. The half-belted barrel comes out again. Very soft about his center body cavity. Just got to amplify him and tune him up in terms of foot and bone ruggedness. And same thing holds true as you study him up high. Need more spread between his blades. Need more dimensional meat animal shape as well too. Young man's gilt comes out next. Sharp looking from her shoulder forward. I like the shape to her skull. Ultimately though, we got to make that one more burly and rugged in terms of his bone work. Excuse me, of her bone work. The big belted barrel comes out next. Another practically middle-driven one in terms of body shape and volume. Just got to make that one more genuine in terms of how he maneuvers off both ends of his skeleton, make him stout and rugged. Round out the class with a couple barrels that bring some parts and pieces that we like. The elevation, the look that all-black barrel has. Just got to make that one bigger in terms of his foot and bulkier in terms of his muscle pattern. Same thing holds true as we round out the class. That red marked up one again. Another one, we love the depth to his lower body. Got to make that one stouter. Got to bring forth a lot more dimensional muscle pattern as you study him up high. Hey, that was a fun class to evaluate. Let's give those kids a nice big round of applause. Apologize. Just trying to get my mind right in terms of what I'm seeing and putting priorities where I think they need to lie, because I think honestly there's things that I absolutely adore about probably the top 4 or 5, but at the same time there's some things that we gotta fix. My option today, a young lady in the pink or peach colored shirt, wins this particular class. I want to be very careful how I say this, because I think there is an issue in terms of what she does with her rear too. But just in terms of looseness of joints and flexibility, that one I thought was the most athletic. And coupled with that, as you dig in behind her and you study her circumference of bone, thought she read that much fatter and denser in terms of her rear leg work relative to what we find in 2. Now, let me quickly mention, as you get in behind that one, I'd love to see her that much square and genuine as she travels from hock all the way to ground. But you put that aside, that's a neat looking one in terms of what he offers, or what she offers from her blade forward. Bold and powerful right there in the center part of her body cavity. You get up high, maybe not the most dimensional as what we see in the top 3, but there's a lot of stuff in terms of volume of muscle and in terms of width that she pushes all the way back to a beautifully designed hip and rump set. Awesome looking from the side. Would just love to tweak her just a nickel as she exits and you get that rear view of her. But a quality gilt nonetheless. Let's give her a nice big round of applause. I got to say my apologies to the young lady that comes in second, because we left her out there, but she just kept surfacing up. And I think there's so much quality to this particular gilt. She mimics and mirrors the gilt that wins the class in terms of her center body cavity. Didn't read that one as burly and dense all the way to the ground in terms of what she offers on a lower appendage component. We'd love to see her that much smoother as she trends in from her ham loin hookup, and got to see her that much neater from her blade forward. That's a quality one nonetheless. There's guys and gals around ringside, and you get up high on this one and you say, why does this thing not win the class? Well, let me quickly talk about where I saw some problem areas. It's just simply her relaxing comfort level to her skeleton. She wants to work very rigid on the top side of her spine, gets a nickel steep in terms of her hip, and then you study her in terms of the length of her step. Just gotta make her more athletic. She is enormous in terms of her back and her hip. She is the most shapely and dimensional in terms of our top 3. Gotta make her softer in her forerib, bolder in terms of her lower body lines, but ultimately just simply gotta make her more athletic. Young lady that comes out in 4, that's a quality barrow to find himself in that spot of this particular class. Ultimately, probably one of the most competitive ones we've seen up to this point. Just didn't see him balance up as well as I'd love to see off to the side. You study him from his blade to the middle part of his spine, wants to get a nickel right, tight, and rigid, and then didn't see him as enormous in terms of what we just talked to that barrel that was in 3rd. But quality pieces nonetheless to find him in that 4th hole. Like this young man's barrel a great deal on the initial inspection of him. The shape and slickness to his skull still leads to a rugged jawline. He comes at you with enough lower skeletal spread, simply thinks he runs out of gas relative to 1, 2, 3, and 4 in terms of foot and lower skeletal feature. Love to make him that much flatter in terms of his upper line. Got to make him leveler in those components to make him that much more aesthetically pleasing from the side, but a quality one nonetheless. The chrome nut barrow is another one that offers very, very good parts and pieces. You know, ultimately it's the rear third of his skeleton. Too short in terms of his hip, too choppy in terms of his rear too, but he's got a lot of body, he's got a lot of back, just got to free him up on a mobility component. Round out the class with quality animals that bring forth just some skeletal issues. They got body, they got enough muscle to get that group 1 status. Awesome class. Give all those kids a nice big round of applause.
Thank you.
Coming back to class 7, Kira Ellison and Sophia Colorado. Entering the ring now, class 8, we have Emma Kennard, Weston Otto, Bentley Belford, Jake
show. I think there's a guilt in my mind that is she perfect? Absolutely not. But I don't know if there's a certain perfect pig that's been made to this stage of the game, and that's the young man in the blue checkered shirt with the guilt driving directly at me. One thing, just proportionality. Is she the neatest and the sharpest from her shoulder forward? Absolutely not. That's where I'd love to fix her. Just make her that much trimmer from her jawline, and as you envision her right there into her chest floor. And then up high, too. We got to feed more of an aggressive turn to the crease of her back in terms of muscle shape and dimension. But I just thought in terms of body and in terms of looseness of structure. And I know she's not the neatest fronted one, but I still thought all the parts and pieces came together. Let's give that young man a nice big round of applause. I think it's close between 2 and 3, and ultimately my decision lies with the white-socked black gilt to go ahead and be second today. I think she does that as she exits that rear view. Thought there was just more stuff in terms of what she offers from her stifle down into her lower ham. Love to see her that much more rugged and dense all the way to the surface. But she's a neat looking one that's elevated. Just got to amplify her bone work all the way to the ground. Young man's speckled belted barrow comes out next. Probably has an advantage as he drives right at you in terms of lower skeletal spread. Thought that one was just too hard and of course right there in the center part of his body cavity. Wants to work out his body lines as you study him on the move with his rear too, but a quality barrow nonetheless. A young man's belted barrow comes out. Another one that we appreciate just in terms of softness and productivity right there in the center part of his cage. Got to make that one looser on both ends of his skeleton. Got to make that one more shapely and dimensional up high. There is more muscle shape and expression on the young lady's big belted gilt that comes out next, and I appreciate that about her. Unfortunately, as you study her rear too, wants to work outside her body line, wants to get too bowy right there as you study her from off the ground. Got to make her softer and smoother in the center part of her cavity. But dimension, shape, and muscularity is there. There's just too much a condition being pushed on this one in terms of fat deposition and finish. Love to make him that much trimmer from his shoulder forward, trim up his lower line, and well feed more muscle expression up high. Round out the class with 2 barrows that are big about their scale, tall at the top side of their shoulder, but ultimately just run out of gas and power when you talk about them on bone, body, and muscle. Awesome class. Give those kids a nice big round of applause.
Coming back from Class A, Weston Auto, and our dark cross class final.
A big, big round of applause for winning their class and coming out here to get hopefully what they dream of, a nice banner backdrop shot in the dark cross division. I think it's close, and quite honestly, there's 3 of them, and I'll kind of talk them as I see them in no particular order, but Young Man's Guilt that won one of those first 2 classes, just so good in terms of her presentation, and for this guy, that means a lot. This is a pig show, not just a market hog deal. So I think skin, hair, and presentation works for that. And past that, we talked that one in class, just in terms of being so bold right there in the center part of her body, but at the same time offering a very good look as you study it there from the side. Young Man, shaggy-haired barrel that wins one of those middle classes. Again, another one that I love lots of things about that one. Probably comes out here a nicker burlier and woofier than what I remember in class. It's in terms of his body. What he offers up high is awesome in terms of spread between his blade. He's big about his back. He's square in those same regards. Maybe would love to see him that much trimmer from his jawline as you study him down to his chest floor. But that's a high quality barrel that definitely deserves to be in consideration. And then the Gilt that won one of those later classes, just so big and bold right there in terms of her center body cavity. We talked that one as being very loose in terms of her stride. But at the same time, when you dig in behind her and you evaluate her driving away from you, would love to see her that much more secure, that much square as it goes all the way to the ground. Obviously, one man's opinion today. Unfortunately for some of you, I'm the guy that holds the mic. But again, I think there's one that's just that much stouter all the way to the ground, that much woofier in terms of what he offers. Not only in terms of his body, he's square, he's bold, he's big about his back, like the belted barrel here to win the championship. In class, definitely elevated and neat looking from the side, maybe not just big and bold enough right there in the cage as you study the center part of his skeleton, but I think ultimately kind of tip my hat. I think it still remains between 2 Gilts out here. That there's one that you get in behind and you just ask yourself, can you live with where she plants her rear to as well as her front to? I'd love to see her that much square, more genuine in class. We said those same regards. I still like her second best. Young Man, the teal will be reserved.
Good job, buddy. Thank you.
We'll turn the page on the book and we got a new chapter, and that's the AOBs. And I think we've got a representation of two high quality market hog projects of obviously two distinctly different breeds, but ultimately there's just more look and there's more aesthetic value from the side. As I step back and evaluate the Berkshire Marked Gilt, I think she wins and wins pretty quick in my mind. Everything is so smooth and everything's so proportional, coupled with the fact as you get your eyes all the way to the ground and work up, and that one is bigger about her foot and stouter about her bone work. You know, I'd love to see her that much wider coming directly at me, and maybe just ever so slightly smoothing her up as you study her right there in the upper part of her hip. That's a quality gilt and getting picky on a very, very good one. Hats off to her. Let's give her a nice big round of applause. Hereford Barrow comes out next, and quite honestly, probably one of the best barrows that we've seen at this point in terms of presentation. Skin and hair is on point. A young man does a tremendous job in terms of driving that barrow. You know, ultimately, from his blade forward is where he gets beat, and at the surface, just in terms of foot size and bone density. And I love to make him that much cleaner and neater as you study him from his jawline down into his chest floor and sternum. That's an awesome Herfmark barrow. Let's give him a nice big round of applause. There is more bone and there is more substance in the young lady's Duroc that comes out next. Just ultimately didn't see that one pieced together in a very proportional manner. Would love to make him that much smoother as you study him from his poll up into his crest, and then just blend that neck transition that much neater and make him leveler down the center part of his spine. But there's a lot of stuff in terms of bone, and there's a lot of spread up high. Just got to make him neater looking. Young lady's gilt comes out next. Different type, different kind. Appreciate the elevation of blade. Appreciate the cleanliness that one offers coming from the side. But she comes at you and goes away with the same disadvantage. Simply, she's just too narrow, too frail as you study her all the way to the ground. Very conventional and practical spot barrow comes out next. Good bodied, but we just got to make him more powerful as we study him up high on a dimensional and a muscularity platform. Round out the class with two York, I'm assuming, pigs. Young man's York that comes out next. A little off in his ear, maybe throws the balance off the nickel. But ultimately, you get up high. We got to see more dimension. You dig in behind him. He's got to be square from hock to ground. And then round out the class with the Loud Marked York, another one that you love in terms of blade extension. We just got to give her more bone, more bulk of body, and more back up high. Awesome class. Let's give all those kids an enormous round of applause. Good job, buddy.
Coming back from AOB Class 1, Presley Willis and Garrett Booth. Entering the ring now, we have AOB Class 2, Cooper Pelford, Carson Hershey, Axton Plant, Jasper Plant. William
Wrap up the AOBs, and I think there's a gilt out here that just, not to be generic, but checks the most boxes in a positive manner. That's the young lady in the paisley shirt on the far side of the ring with the Duroc. I think just in terms of comfort level, when she gets that gilt to actually rock out and roll, she's the looser option, the more athletically driven individual in terms of her step and her stride. And you get off to the side. She's an elevated individual that's got some height to her blade, you know, and at the same time, I think of what we're given in this particular class, feeds the squarest and the most aggressive amount of muscle all the way back into her hips. Let's congratulate her, like that gilt, quite a bit. I think a toss-up and close between 2 and 3. Options to lie with the Duroc Barrow to go second. I thought of that top 2, maybe wasn't the most comfortable in terms of what he offers. As you study him on the drive, you get your eyes off to the side and you evaluate his upper line. Wants to get too tight and rigid as he enters into his upper hip, and then get in behind him. Got to square that one up from hop to ground. Got to make him stouter in terms of his bone work all the way to the surface. But a nice top duo. Give both those kids a nice big round of applause. Hey, this is a fit contest, young man in 3 wins, because skin and hair is on point in terms of health of hide and in terms of health of hair, and I appreciate that about him. You get past that part and you evaluate him in terms of his upper skeletal spread. Didn't read him as massive as what we found in our top 2. Plain and nondescript in terms of his muscle pattern, but at the same time, good body, good built in terms of his mobility pattern. Just got to make him more aggressive on a muscularity aspect. There is more meat and there is more muscle in terms of what we offer and what we see in the young lady's Yorkshire Marked Barrow. Unfortunately today, as you study the rear third in terms of his hip and his hind leg set, just too tight and rigid, wants to work outside his body line. He's got a big back on him. Congratulations to her. We'll bring the remainders out and just talk them as we see them, because quite honestly, they're very, very similar in terms of what they bring to the table. All of them are big about their size and scale, but ultimately in a show ring setting, we just got to get more bone. We got to get more bulk and muscle as we evaluate them up high. Awesome way to end the AOBs. Give all those kids a nice big round of applause.
Thank you.
Good job. Good job today. Yep.
And coming back from AOB.
Exhibitors, a huge, huge round of applause. A wise man once told me, when you know, you know, and when you can pull the trigger, pull it. And I don't even think it's close in terms of garnering a banner for the AOB division. There's a gilt out here that's just so moderate in terms of what she offers, at the same time proportional. She's got a lot of feature working all the way to the ground. Young lady's Berkshire gilt wins and wins quick. Give her a big, big round of applause. Well, fun way to wrap up the Market Hog Show. I think we've got 2 classes of the progress, and maybe some kids, I was told, just didn't want to sell them. So, hey, with that being said, I think we've got a very comfortable place to start, and that's the young lady in the red shirt with that chromed up barrel. There's a lot of value, and there's a lot of fun pieces on that one. You know, a lot of us that follow this show pig thing, where we're so amped up in terms of getting them shaggy and dense about their hair texture. Excuse me, and absolutely he's got that component. You know, ultimately that's not why he wins this particular class. He truthfully is the stoutest featured all the way to the ground, and more impactfully to me, as you get in behind him and you study his rear too, he's the most secure, he's the squarest going all the way to the ground. Neat looking one's got muscle, got body, got a killer set of hair follicles pouring off his body. Give that young lady a nice big round of applause. I take nothing away from the young lady that comes second, because if it's a fit job presentation aspect, she wins. That thing's highly presented, looks amazing in terms of skin and hair presentation. You know, I love lots of things about her in terms of what she offers from her shoulder forward. She's long neck, she's neat skull, she's so shapely, dimensional, and powerful as you get on top of her. You know, just question when you dig in behind her and you study what she does with her rear too. Got to chill her out, got to relax her, got to make her more mellow and more genuine in terms of where she references hawk to ground. That's a good quality gilt to go second. The young man that comes out and through with the fun marked one, another tall-shouldered individual. It's got shape and expression and muscle, but you get in and you evaluate her in terms of her center body cavity. Got to have more outward turn, and hopefully that comes to the young man as she progresses and matures. We fixed that one venue. She's definitely a high-quality one nonetheless. Awesome skin and hair on the young man that comes out next. That thing's fit to a T. Love the height, the shoulder. Just got to amplify that one in terms of bone, in terms of lower and upper skeletal spread, and pour a lot more muscularity on top of her. But that's a good gilt nonetheless. All black gilt, same thing, kind of comes to fruition in my mind. Got to make that one more rugged, more dense, just more tough in terms of what she looks like. Love her look from her blade forward. Love the relaxer in her spine, but she's got to be stouter. She's got to be denser. Young man comes out with a fun marked belted white-tailed one. Again, another one that's got some parts and pieces that we can work with in terms of being square down his back. Just got to be more dimensional in terms of the muscle pattern. Round out the class with a killer-looking one from his blade forward. Just got to amplify that muscularity, maybe regress the body feel that we got on that one. Awesome, awesome class. Let's give those kids in the prospect division a nice big round of applause. Well, I think a logical place to start, and that's the young lady driving the belted gilt directly at me. There's a lot of good parts and pieces to this one. I think there's some things that maybe we tweak on when they get back home, and give you my opinion in terms of what I think we do at the house. But past that, man, that one coming directly at you, so square and so genuine, and you study from her chest floor, from knee to ground. She's dense and she's stout about her mug. She's big and bold right there in the center part of her body cavity. Definitely does not disappoint you up high in terms of spread between her blade, and pushes a fresh muscle pattern all the way out of a big hook and pin set. You know, I'd love to see that one trimmer, and kind of the way my mind goes, if we had that one at our house, just kind of let her chill and maybe give her a little bit of feed, but it's got a high protein value. I think what you're going to do with that is from her jawline into her chest floor, you're going to see some of that chef come off, and at the same time, we're going to kind of trim up her lower line, because if I think we do that, and you got a killer looking, good made one, she's got a bright, bright future ahead of her. Give that young lady a big, big round of applause. The young man's barrow that comes in second, more my kind in speed as you study, you know, the extension of his neck and the shape to his skull work and the height of his blade. But ultimately, when you dig in behind that one and you study the value of his hawk, wants to push and become too bowy from hawk to ground, got to fix that, relax him in those regards, maybe just stouten him up as you study him all the way to the surface. But a neat looking crater from his shoulder forward, got a ton of back shape. Young man fights hard, does a very, very good job. Give him a big, big round of applause. You got a bigger gilt out here amongst some littles, and I don't know if that throws her off for me, but I think she's still got some value in terms of what she brings forth. I appreciate the center third of her body, and what I mean by that is from her blade to her hip, I love the fact that she's big back, she's dimensional in terms of her muscle pattern. What we got to make her better is you study her off that rear third. She's too short and steep about her hip. Love to make her that much more elevated at the top side of her blade, but a lot of quality pieces nonetheless. We got a big fat-legged one coming out next as you study the bone diameter off her rear too. We just got to make her more secure in terms of how she utilizes her hawk joint. Got to make her taller, more elevated at the top side of her shoulder. Different speed, different kind that comes out next. This one's got the advantage in terms of height of blade, looseness of step. Just too frail, too narrow for my liking. But hey, that's an awesome way to end this class. Let's give all those kids a nice big round of applause. Definitely want to echo my thank yous to the individuals that are running gates and all the clerks. Awesomely run show. Definitely appreciate, just keeps the ball rolling. That being said, let's give both these young ladies a nice big round of applause. Both class winners, both out here representing the Progress Division in a high quality manner. You know, they're different in terms of what you bring forth and how you study them and how they come together. There's one that's simply just more my speed. Specifically speaking, as you study them and evaluate them off the side, there's more height of blade, there's more look and extension from there forward. And at the same time, definitely does not disappoint in terms of aggressive of muscle pattern as you study him down the center part of his back. Awesome, awesome top individual in this prospect. Young lady in the red should be your champion. Second place gilt out, and remember her in class kind of got nitpicky on her in terms of how she positions her rear legs when you study her going away from you. You know, ultimately there's two high quality gilts out here. You know, just comfort and I think genuine build is what elevates my reserve to get that garner. Talked to her in class, love to see her that much trimmer and neater, but at the same time, that's a big bodied, powerful, stout one. Young lady here, you'll be reserved.
Good job.